One Uptown TV. Yo, enough there, me I represent. Bang.
First interview for this morning to our two very special guests. But before, let me tell you what this is about. This is about an issue that continues to stir deep emotions, both here at home and across the globe. Obviously, especially this morning, we're hearing all kinds of story coming out of the region, which is Palestine. The ongoing conflict in Gaza and the ongoing genocide in Gaza and the recent High Court decision in Barbados. Recently, activist David Denny and attorney at law Lailu Hanuman took on what some, including I think the judge, called an unwinnable case, seeking to prevent the Israeli Defense Force personnel from entering Barbados, I think, and to push Barbados to meet its obligations under international law. The court, of course, dismissed the claim, but the struggle for justice and solidarity is far from over. And we're going to be speaking now with two very special guests at the center of the case. David Denny, General Secretary of the Caribbean Movement for Peace and Integration and attorney at law. I think it's Lailu or Lalo. They'll tell me as soon as they come on. I think they are online. Both are online, or they're not quite ready. Okay, yes, I think I do have someone. Who do we have online? Can you say? Is this you, David? Oh, Lalo. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. So let me start with you, Lalo. A background. I'm not sure if David is with you. Is David online?
I'm in Suriname. He's in Barbados, so I don't know if he's online or not.
Right. My apologies. Not quite sure what's happening. Just in my sphere, but we'll work it out. All right. So let's talk about this a bit, Lalo. The court case, because it was described as unwinnable, and it was even called a waste of time, a waste of judicial time by the judge. Tell us about this court case. What's the background to this, and what was it about?
Right. Good morning again. As you rightly intimated, it's to do with the ongoing genocide in Gaza and the breaches of international law that go along with that. Mr. David Denny, as the General Secretary of the Caribbean Movement for Peace and Integration, he filed his action in the Supreme Court in Barbados. And in fact, it was a Jamaican judge who works there, who was not too long appointed, Dr. Herbert Patrick Wells. I understand he used to work in the AG's office in Kingston. He heard the matter, and he felt that the application was frivolous and that really the jurisdiction resides to take action to do with the implementation of the said conventions, the Fourth Geneva Convention in particular and the Genocide Convention in a domestic court. That, in effect, is what he held.
Mm-hmm. Let me see if we've got David online now. David, are you there? All right, we are trying to get David up online. I'm not quite sure what's happening. I am going to ask you to hold the line for me, though, Lalo, while I take a quick break and figure this out. I'll come right back. Hold the line for me, please. From Netanyahu, where he's now saying that he's about to go occupy Gaza. Does this make a difference in terms of how you're looking at things?
You're talking about current affairs, contemporary matters in Gaza, yes?
Yes.
Well, I mean, this started, in fact, well before October 2023. It's been an ongoing reality for something like 100 years. And just like Jamaica's historical experience with colonialism, that's the same experience that the Gazans or the Palestinians in general have been experiencing. It was Lord Balfour, when he was foreign minister in Britain in 1917, November 1917, who came up with this idea of portioning part of the Ottoman Empire, which was fighting against Britain and alongside Germany at that time, should be given as a Jewish homeland. And in fact, in terms of Caribbean history, Guyana was also considered. There's a part of Guyana called the Rupununi, which abuts Brazil, and it was offered to the World Zionist Congress as a place to have as a Jewish homeland. And in fact, in the 1940s, after the Second World War, I think it was President Truman at the time, came up with the idea of giving the 3 Guyanas, which were obviously at that time owned by European powers, French Guyana still is, over to, again, to the Jewish, the World Zionist Congress, so that they could set up a homeland here. It's interesting how these powers just allocate other people's land, and do as they please. So the legacy of that is still ongoing. Israel was established, unfortunately, by a resolution of the General Assembly of the United Nations in 1947. And there's been ongoing oppression and exploitation of the Palestinians all the way since then. So it's not something new. So in terms of what currently is being contemplated is just another step in this ongoing oppression and genocide.
Of course.
Something like 2.5 million Gazans have been deprived of food, water, fuel, and medication now since October 2023. And they're being shot at when they try to get some food. There's food waiting outside over the border in Egypt at the Rafah crossing. There's food waiting on the Jordanian border, but Israel isn't allowing it in. So it's an ongoing, blatant genocide.
Of course it is.
There's very little response from the global community.
Yeah. But you've also said you're not surprised at the ruling in the courts in Barbados, that this is no surprise to you. You expected this ruling.
Well, based on what the judge had said when we were giving our oral submissions, I anticipated this is the way it would go. I don't... I think David Denny is there now. I'm hearing his voice. Is that right?
Hello? We're trying to get... Is he there? David, are you there? Because we're still trying to get him on, but I'm not quite sure that he's there. No.
Okay, I thought I heard his voice.
Yeah, you did, but something happened. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so we weren't surprised. We were disappointed, but we weren't surprised based on the intimations that the judge had given at the oral hearing as to how we would proceed. So that's why we weren't surprised. As I said, I don't agree with his findings. He's saying that only countries can bring matters before the International Court of Justice, which is fine. We agree with that. But he's saying that any conflict, any issue to do with the Genocide Convention, in particular the Fourth Geneva Convention, has to be dealt with in the International Court of Justice, despite both conventions clearly saying that local courts have jurisdiction to deal with matters. And Barbados has also ratified and also introduced domestic legislation into Barbados. That means that Barbados's statutes include a genocide act since 1985. So we're saying even if the court doesn't have international jurisdiction to deal with this matter, there's a domestic issue that would give you jurisdiction, namely the said act, Genocide Act from 1985. But as I said, the judge didn't support our position.
Because in other words, you're saying that Barbados has obligations under international law to act in situations like this.
Precisely, but also we're saying it has domestic obligations as well, because they have introduced the Genocide Convention into domestic law since 1985. There's a Barbadian Indigenous Act which says the International Genocide Convention is now part of Barbados's domestic law. So we're saying, forget about the international jurisdiction aspect, which we think and believe the court has the powers to act under, but also under domestic jurisdiction, the court has those powers. However, the judge didn't agree with us.
So I've been looking at some of the responses to all of this. One thing that I hear people saying is that so Barbados did this, and it's brilliant that this is coming out of Barbados, but the Caribbean itself, CARICOM, has a further obligation. CARICOM is pretty silent on this. In Jamaica, Jamaica took a decision long time ago, regardless of what we're hearing, about its interaction and its partnership with Israel, with or without a genocide. And Jamaica seems to be digging in its heels even with the genocide, in terms of partnerships and the IDF and all of that, which I think is similar across the Caribbean, Barbados included. What's your thinking on this in terms of CARICOM, now moving this to a CARICOM level, not just seeing this decision as final, but that, tapping into public opinion, because there seems to be that, and how this can be more powerful than even the court ruling?
Well, I'm very disappointed by CARICOM. They've been issuing statements, but statements are not good enough. They all maintain close diplomatic ties with Israel, also trading links, cultural links, and despite making statements saying that there's a genocide in progress, they still maintain that. Yes, they've been supporting resolutions in the United Nations, but I don't understand why we still have diplomatic relations throughout the Caribbean with a state that they acknowledge is committing genocide.
Did we lose you?
It's an apartheid state. It's also an apartheid state.
Yes.
Both Nelson Mandela and Archbishop Desmond Tutu are on record as saying what's happening in Palestine, and this obviously is years ago, it's not a recent thing. It's worse than the apartheid system that existed in South Africa, yet we led the world in boycotts and breaking sporting links and so on with South Africa. But here we're lagging far behind in so doing.
Yes.
With the exception of Belize, which has suspended diplomatic relations, and St. Vincent, which has joined what's called the Hague Group, which is a group of countries actively trying to ensure that the Gazans in particular get access to food and other supplies.
Yeah. I think I have David online. David, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, ma'am.
Oh, thank you so much for your patience. Obviously, we had a little challenge making the connect. It's not your fault, actually. It's right here, connecting you to our console. But thank you so much for being patient. So we've been talking to Lalo about the court case. Obviously, the case was brought by the Caribbean Movement for Peace and Integration, which you are the General Secretary, I think. Can you tell us what motivated you and the Caribbean Movement for Peace and Integration to take this legal action in the first place? And how does it connect to your broader work for justice and peace?
Well, let me say first that our action is not about winning the case or losing the case, but it's about creating some level of consciousness in our region about the situation in Palestine. And that's the main reason why we took the matter to court, and have created the conditions for Barbadian people to better understand the situation in Palestine. Because if you look at what is happening in Barbados now, there's a lot of persons are discussing the whole issue on all of our call-in programs, radio programs in Barbados, and the people are now, being able to better understand what is happening in Gaza. Now, our main concern also is centered around forcing the government of Barbados to give up all forms of diplomatic relationship with Israel, and also to encourage other Caribbean nations that are part of CARICOM to give up all forms of diplomatic relationships with Israel. And the reason for that is because this is a state that is creating the conditions for genocide in Palestine, and not only that, they're prepared to even extend their military action against the people of Palestine in the Gaza Strip, in Gaza area. So for us, this case is, even though that the judgment would have come down against us, is a very, very important case, and it has helped to let the world know that there are people in this part of the world that is very concerned about what is happening in Palestine, and for us to be able to fully condemn the government of Israel and to demand that our governments in the region give up all forms of diplomatic relationship with Israel, just like we did when we had the white racist government in South Africa, and we feel that the government of the Caribbean should take a similar stance in relation to Israel.
Know that, and of course, Lalo has brought us up to speed with what happened in courts and the ruling and so on, but also put it in the wider perspective, as you're doing right now, which is to say, to take it beyond just a case that was brought, but to bring attention to the genocide that's happening, and to point to the roles and responsibilities, the obligations, if you will, of the Caribbean. Lalo was just expressing his disappointment in CARICOM in this matter. Your own thinking on that?
Well, I mean, all of us are very disappointed with the way how CARICOM has been dealing with this matter, because even my organization, in the past, we suggested that we offer academic scholarships to people from Palestine so that they can come to our region, and that we assist some of the children in Palestine with medical assistance who need medical assistance, and that we can work directly with the governments of Cuba and Venezuela, who already have a very good working relationship in terms of offering academic scholarships and assisting medically and with some of the issues and problems that the Palestinian people are facing. So I think CARICOM has failed to do anything major or proper in terms of assisting those people who are suffering in Palestine.
And even though there is global outrage at the genocide, the continuing genocide in Gaza by Israel, obviously Gaza, Israel as an apartheid state, even though there's global outrage, a lot of it being covered over because of the media and media ownership. But Jamaica, for example, today there's excitement on the island. Everybody's heading to halfway tree because the Prime Minister is about to announce a date for the next general election. But it's interesting that the question of Gaza, the question of Palestine, is not on the ballot at all. And I'm not quite sure what it is like in the rest of the Caribbean. Obviously, we have this court case. But is there, and both of you can take this, is there a deliberateness about the ignorance that, well, I wouldn't even call it ignorance because people are totally aware of what's happening. But the fact that the people themselves have not insisted that, whether it's the opposition party or the party, the incumbent, come down on a side on this matter. As a matter of fact, the Jamaican government, like the Barbadian government, are involved with in diplomatic relations with Israel at the highest levels. Talk to me about that and why you think that there is not more a demand, if you will, from the people themselves, especially in a case where we have an election that's coming up.
Now, what I can say about my own area in terms of here in Barbados, that the government of Barbados also have a very high level of working relationship with the government of Israel, in agriculture and in relation to public health and other issues. But what I would say is that our case have created some level of consciousness in Barbados among the Barbadian people. And the Barbadian people are asking questions. Mm-hmm. I know that the Prime Minister of Barbados have made some, statements internationally about the situation in Gaza. Mm-hmm. But I just talk.
Yeah.
This is a time now, a period for action. Okay, so the government of Barbados really ain't doing anything to help the people of Palestine. Yes, they have, developed a diplomatic relationship with Palestine, yes, which is good, and we feel happy about that. But what about the children of Palestine that are suffering every day, that are being bombed and murdered? What about the people when they go to just get a meal, that they're being killed every day? And the thing is that the people of Palestine are not fighting back because they don't have any arms to fight back.
No.
Israel continue to bomb the nation. And what the world is saying, the world haven't been saying anything. We have to save the lives in Palestine. We have to help the children of Palestine. These are children who do not know anything of any war. But yet still they are being murdered every day or they're losing their limbs. And that's the main reason why we in Barbados went to court.
Yes.
You know, and for us, those persons who are standing in our way, for us, they are heartless people. They don't have any heart, any feeling. They're just interested in making large sums of money for themselves and living a sweet life and maintaining a relationship with the government of Israel. But right inside of Israel, there are people who are condemning this condition and calling it genocide. Right inside of Israel. Yeah. You know, and for us, you know, in our region, we have to take a stand.
Yeah, and people feel so hopeless because I know Jamaican people on a whole and Caribbean people are really upset about this, want to do something, feeling as if, you know, there's almost nothing you can do apart from be keyboard warriors, let your voices be heard on the internet or whichever spaces you're in. But at the government level, nothing is changing, nothing has changed. We're totally out of time, so I just want a quick final word from both of you. Lalo, as I start with you to say, you go first, what can people do? What's the message? Jamaican people are listening, Caribbean people are listening. What can we take away from what this case has done, and what can we do? What else?
Well, I think within the Caribbean in general, we tend to view Israel through a biblical lens, and it's important to know that what exists currently as the state of Israel is not a biblical state. It's a horrendous, in effect, fascist state. And in the past, we condemned people who were complicit in slavery. But today, unfortunately, we are the ones who are complicit in genocide by not taking action. And when I say we here, I'm referring to the governments of the region. We need to sever diplomatic relations, as David pointed out, with the fascist state of Israel. We need to boycott them. We need to suspend all trade and diplomatic and sporting links, just like what we did with apartheid South Africa. That is what we need to do. And coming out of the case, myself and David are still contemplating an appeal. We haven't made any firm decisions either way, but it's possible that down the road we might appeal. Thank you for inviting me to contribute to your program this morning.
And thank you for taking the time. Hopefully we'll talk again when we have more time. David, I'll give you the final word.
Yeah, I like to support the idea of the appeal. I've reached that stage. And the other thing is that I also would support the call for International Civil Society Conference to discuss the whole issue relating to what is happening in Palestine, because I'm very concerned about what I witnessed and what happened yesterday in the UK in relation to arresting over 200 people who were participating in a demonstration and who were making demands, you know, for the people of Palestine, and who were prepared to stand in solidarity with children and people of Palestine. And thank you for giving me this opportunity. You can call on me anytime.
We'll definitely do that. Thank you so much. Keep up the good work, and we'll definitely be hearing from you both again. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Lalo Hanuman there and David Denny. Look up the case if you will. There's just so much there to unpack. We didn't have a whole lot of time to go through it this morning, but when we have more time, we'll definitely return to this issue and also to these stalwarts, warriors who are fighting for Gaza and for Palestine and the people of Palestine.
From Kingston to the world, from Montego Bay to new adventures, and from ultra race to endless possibilities. Wherever you're headed, we proudly take you there. Jamaica's airports, your global gateway. The time by the Airports Authority of Jamaica is
now 4 minutes after 7 o'clock. You're inside of the Africa Forum. This is Running African. I've been talking since 6 o'clock this morning, just after 6, about what's happening on the island here in Jamaica, and looking specifically at the road, all the roads that's leading to Halfway Tree later on, the political campaigning getting into high gear. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says that he has confirmed that he will announce a date for the next general election at a mass rally which is being staged by the Jamaica Labour Party today. We're going to have some conversations about that, and but from within our own lenses, right? Our own Pan-African lenses. We have a right to a Pan-African opinion. Also, just to tell you quickly that IRFM's tribute to Morlamu Marcus Messiah Garvey will take place on Sunday, August 17. That's next Sunday. And the tribute is being held under the theme, From Protest to Production, Up You Mighty Race, The Time Is Now. So, as usual, the celebrations will take place here in the courtyard. And speakers this year include our brother Ako Mutota, who will be on the island in Jamaica, Dr. Amina Blackwood Meeks, our brother Gerald Hamilton, and many others. And this will be followed by the concert at 6 o'clock. So, I think we have brother Ako Mutota online right now, and I do hope that I can get him up online. No, not getting brother. Is there online, brother Ako? All right, no. So let me do this and see if we have him, brother Ako. Yeah, you there, brother Ako? I think I know that he's there. Yes. Is that you, brother Ako Mutota?
Yes, Sister Kabu, I'm hearing you.
Loud and clear, we're hearing you now also. Okay. Wow. We talk to you so often on the phone lines, but we're looking forward to you coming into Jamaica, to seeing you on the island on a Sunday for our tribute to Morlamu Marcus Messiah Garvey. Brother Ako, thank you so much for joining us. We've been saying,
thank you, Sister Cabo.
We've been saying here, Prime Minister Andrew Holness has officially announced the date for Jamaica's next general election. Well, he hasn't announced the date. He's going to announce the date today for Jamaica's next general election, which will take place at a mass JLP rally in Halfway Tree. The campaign is intensifying. Mr. Holness has been talking to candidates at a central executive meeting. He has urged JLP candidates to campaign with humility, with dignity and professionalism, and he has emphasized will be here next week as the keynote speaker at IRFM's tribute to Morlamu Marcus Messiah Garvey. Brother Ako Mutota was born in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. He's been involved in the revolutionary movement there, in the Black Power movement specifically, and he is a former senior member of the NJAC, the National Joint Action Committee of Trinidad and Tobago. He has been involved in the book and publishing industry in the United States, Chicago and Atlanta specifically, for over 20 years. He is a founder and current chairperson of the Rio Claro Heritage and Preservation Organization, which is an organization based in rural South Trinidad. He's also the founding member of the Caribbean Progressive Perspectives. And online, as the Prime Minister of Jamaica gets ready to announce the election date today, and there is this excitement on the island, and the traffic, I hear, is already challenging the kind of a Pavlovian situation that is unfolding on the island today. It's not strange to Jamaica, and every time it happens, we say it is phenomenal. But what we're doing today, as Jamaica gets ready to vote again, is to situate our condition, our situation, within the wider regional context and also the global context. Because our condition is the global condition or the regional conditions impact our local conditions here on the island. And our governments are involved up to their necks in some of these global, as you heard Brother Ako saying earlier, that they signed international deals and we don't have a clue. So, Brother Ako, one of the things you said as we were going into the break is that this, as long as a system remains, and you're talking not just a Jamaican political system, but the regional system, this, what happens in Jamaica is happening in CARICOM, in all CARICOM countries. As long as that system remains intact, the plight of Caribbean people, Jamaican people, is under serious, serious attack.
Yes, Sister Kabu. We have had a system, as I said, and I prefer to call it an apparatus.
Yes.
That's been imposed on us, like you put a yoke on a mule or a horse. That has been imposed on us. It's called the Westminster model, and it is throughout the Caribbean. All what is called the British West Indies, as some would prefer to call it. It has been imposed on us, and this is a system that has a certain kind of a mode of behavior, and you go in parts of the Caribbean in the Parliament, and some of the MPs are still wearing wigs. British wigs. And
I don't even know if in Jamaica they take off their wigs yet. They've been wearing all kinds of stuff in the Jamaican Parliament, from the mace to the wig. So what we have is a lot of forms, a lot of ritualistic behavior, but no real substance. And so when it comes to fundamental issues like sovereignty, do you really believe that any parliament in the Caribbean could pass a law that impacts the U.S. negatively if it affects our sovereignty, right? Or if it promotes our sovereignty? No, they cannot do that. And so these parliaments are really talk shops with no real power in terms of what I call the global arena to impact our lives. Mm-hmm. We are not sovereign nations. We are not. And that
right?
takes us... Yes, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, but the fact that we have a political system, an apparatus that has been imposed on us from the outside, right, which can be easily manipulated by outside forces, where our judiciary, the highest court in the land, is still the Privy Council. So we are what we call in Trinidad spinning top in mud. We are making fools of ourselves. That's what we are doing.
Mm-hmm. And here on the island, there's an ongoing conversation, of course, about constitutional reform, but this has been going on forever. We're looking at the 1980s election, which had one of the highest turnout. It was one of the most violent and bloody elections in Jamaica's history, but the turnout was the highest. So far, we haven't managed to even match the numbers that turned out in 1980 to vote. But we're having these conversations from way back as then. We had people on stage saying this is going to be the last election under Mrs. Queen, and here we are, how many years after, in 2025, still quibbling about whether or not to get rid of the British monarchy as a head of state, and this is not just Jamaica alone. So what is looking at this through the Pan-African lens and the lens of activism and African-centeredness, what then is the system that is best suited for Caribbean countries?
And that is what we have to sit and discuss. I remember as a teenager, after the 1970 revolution, what people call the Black Power Revolution in Trinidad, the government was forced to make certain decisions, because one of the things we did in NJAC at the time was we challenged the political system. We wrote a booklet called Conventional Politics or Revolution. And what we were saying in that document is that we need to change the system. We need to look at politics differently and to find ways to bring the masses more into the political process. The government under the then Eric Williams issued a Constitution Commission headed by very prominent people in the country. The head of it was the former Chief Justice, the first black Chief Justice in Trinidad at the time, so Hugh Wooding. And I remember as a teenager going to those constitution meetings. You know, I was very curious about policy even then. I think I was about 17 or so. Yeah. And so I went to one of the meetings, and a couple of them actually, and listened to some of the discussions taking place. And after the Constitution Commission did its findings across the country, the recommendation, one of the recommendations was to move away from what is called first past the post system, which is what we have now, or winner take all, which basically alienates half of the population from the process when their party loses the elections. In Trinidad, it is fraught with ethnic tensions because we have two political parties. One is supposed to be based around the Indian vote and one around the African vote. So the recommendation from the Constitution Commission in Trinidad at the time was that we move away from what is called the first past the post electoral system, and that we move into a system more of what is called proportional representation, which would represent a broader involvement and give more participation by the various groups in the society in the electoral process and consequently in the parliamentary process. Now, I am not saying whether first past the post is good, the proportional representation is good or bad, but it was a recommendation in terms of challenging what exists and to transform the failures of the current political system. At the time, when the report was submitted, he wouldn't have died. And he was a very prominent and influential figure in the society, who many felt that Williams had failed to some extent, because he was on par intellectually with him. But Wooding died before the report could be presented. And when the report was presented, Williams made a speech that proportional representation would be a dagger in the heart of the PNM, the People's National Movement, basically saying that it would kill the PNM. And what he subsequently did was to write his own constitution, presented in a hamstrung parliament in which there was a boycott of the elections at the time, and there were only 28% of the people voted, and passed that constitution, which we still have in Trinidad today. You understand?
Yes.
So when he made that statement, he never thought about what was best for the country. He said he thought about what was best for the PNM, which is the People's National Movement. And this is how political parties think. They don't think about what is good for the country. They think about what is good for their own political party, their own supporters, and their financiers. And that is why the system remains intact, because it serves the elite. And whichever way the election goes, the elite never lose. So you have the elite who support the PNP, you have the elite who support the JLP, and in Trinidad it's the same thing with the UNC and the PNM. And every so often they put a cabal together of the people who are disaffected, like the partnership, and they won. But the basic foundation of the politics is ethnic. One party appeals to majority to Indian people, one party to African people. In Jamaica, we know it's different, slightly different, but you have this caste and class system in Jamaica. And so despite the fact that the JLP calls itself a Labour Party, the JLP does not have the interests of the working class. I mean, Professor Hilborn was put it correctly. He said you could be pro-worker but not pro-working class. That's two different things, right?
and that says a lot. So I want to come back from this break to talk a little bit about this capitalist system also, because capitalism is also driving this thing. I mean, this is more than ever before. When we see the world going in a they're talking about multipolarity. They're talking about, we had some conversations recently, you and me, Brother Akko, about neoliberalism. Now we see technocracy and we see all kinds of stuff. But capitalism seems to be the garment that everybody put on. And even now, for Jamaica, this is that has a stranglehold on the Jamaican economy. Let me take a break and come talk about that system and what that means for us, the masses of the people. Guest online, Brother Akko Mutota, who will be on the island next week, Sunday, as a keynote speaker at our tribute to Mwalimu Marcus Mosiah Garvey. We're talking about political, socio-economic issues. Jamaica is heading to the polls for elections today. The Prime Minister is expected to announce, will announce the date of the election. This is what he says. He has confirmed that. And Jamaicans will head to the polls. We're looking at this from a geopolitical and a global perspective. But I want Brother Ako to quickly, because we're talking about the apparatus, and you talked about no matter which party wins, no matter how it goes, and this has been going on from 1962 and onwards, the elite always win, and they win in a capitalist apparatus anyway. How dangerous is this capitalism to the masses of the Caribbean people, of the Jamaican people?
So, Sister Kabu, I will use a quote from Karl Marx here.
Yes.
Right? And to quote capitalism, he said, capitalism comes into the world dripping from head to foot, from every pore with blood and dirt. And that sums up capitalism.
Yes.
It comes into the world with blood, gore, and exploitation in every form. And, this was the challenge others faced. Michael Manley, he was not a Marxist, but he did try to reform the system in some, in some cases, and paid a heavy price for it. We look at what is happening in Cuba. We look at the Haitian Revolution at itself, which tried to transform the former slaves enslaved into a society that was devoid of these capitalist tendencies. And what one has to understand is that these people talk about market forces and so on. They forgot that at one point we were the commodity in the market. Africans were the commodity in the market. So when we talk about market forces, what exactly are we speaking about? This system of capitalism, which is with its what is called extractive mode of development, because it takes everything from you. If you have gold, it takes it. If you have oil, it takes it. If it has your water now, and I know we're supposed to maybe mention this AI business. This is one of the challenges of AI. What people are not understanding is the AI systems, the data systems that run the AI need more water than human beings. And so to cool the machines. So now it is predicted that there'll be a shortage of water as AI systems come into place. Now we already have a situation of global warming where water is in serious shortage, and there are many theses that are suggesting that the future wars will be around water and so on. So this system of capitalism that made us into commodities, and when I say made us, people of African descent, into commodities, that's how we came to the Caribbean. This is a system that we must challenge. This is a system that we must transform and must seek to destroy, and I make no apologies for saying that. It has brought too much blood to humanity and continues to do so. Look at what is happening in Gaza, because people, some real estate developers want to put high-rise in the Gaza Strip facing the sea. Look what it did to Iraq. Hundreds of millions of children died with cancer based on the kind of bombs and that the U.S. left behind because they want control of the oil wealth in Iraq and so on and so forth. So we have to develop an anti-capitalist mode and an anti-imperialist mode in these Caribbeans. We cannot continue to move along as we have been doing. In fact, if you look at Caribbean societies, we can consider ourselves dying societies based on the amount of violence that is taking place among our youth. I mean, in every single Caribbean territory, right? In Barbados. It used to be that in the Caribbean, people say, oh, we don't want to be like Jamaica. No, everybody's like Jamaica. In Barbados, killings in St. Lucia, killings in Trinidad, mass murders, and so on, all gun violence.
All gun violence, and we've been talking about this also with somebody who you know very well, Brother Darius Figueroa, who has been putting this in context for us and kind of pointing us to the places that we need to look within the context of crime, within the context of transnational organized criminal activity, which of course this is a problem in the Caribbean. It is so clear, Brother Akko. So that you say we must destroy this system without apology.
We have to.
But how do we even begin?
Without apology.
How do we destroy this system?
It begins in our hearts and in our minds, Sister Kabu.
Mm-hmm.
It begins with us seeking to cooperate with each other to develop a system on cooperation and competition.
Yes.
Capitalism facilitates competition, supposedly. But when it suits the capitalists, when it doesn't suit them, what do they tariff you? Like what Trump is doing. Mm-hmm. I don't know in the world any civilization that became great on competition as its primary ethic or its primary philosophical mode. What I do know is that all the ancient civilizations that came to prominence, and I'm not talking about the bloodthirsty ones like the Roman Empire and so on, but other civilizations like ancient Kemet and others, they came and they developed because of cooperation. Mm-hmm. A society can only grow in any meaningful way based on cooperation, not competition. Yes, there is some space for competition in certain spheres.
Well, and that would be competition. That would be competition in any case.
Exactly,
yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so the cooperative model is distinctly averse and opposite to the competitive model. And in our civilizations as Africans, our civilizations as East Indians, and even Chinese in the Caribbean, our civilizations taught cooperation as modes of development for society. And we have it in some aspects. I mean, in Trinidad, we have something called the Susu here, which is a cooperative model.
Yes, it's the same thing. I think it's the same thing we call partner.
Right.
Yes.
And boxing in Guyana and
yes.
and other places. So these are the germs of a civilization and an economic model that we could begin with. The nucleus, if you want to call it that, of an economic model that facilitates cooperation. We have something we did in Trinidad here called lend hand and so on, which help people build homes, people will pool their resources and build homes. We have seen the society implement measures to destroy these things. They're bringing things like Habitat for Humanity, what I call foreign methods of influencing society. And what we don't understand is this, which I said in an interview a couple of weeks ago. What is called the non-profit or the NGO, mm-hmm. which is what they are imposing on us to destroy our social fabric and our indigenous methods. Mm-hmm. The NGO, the non-government organization, as some people refer them to mere government organization. Mm-hmm. It is a model that was imposed by the World Bank under Robert McNamara, who was then head of the World Bank. Mm-hmm. Those who do not know who Robert McNamara was, he was one of the main architects of the Vietnam War, the defense secretary. Mm-hmm. And when he left the Vietnam War after they were defeated, he became the head of the World Bank. Mm-hmm. And introduced this monster called non-government organizations or non-profit organizations mm-hmm. as a mode of American soft power influencing
of course
the social fabric of society.
And non-government organizations which are heavily funded by internationally funded and really
exactly.
part of the funding industrial complex that kills and stifles growth and independence and sovereignty and so on.
Exactly.
So Brother Ak, I'm going to take a quick break and come back and then to look at, all right, so within that context, Jamaica, we're talking Jamaica specifically, you're coming in next week, but obviously our Jamaica's problem is a Caribbean problem, it's CARICOM problem, so it's one and the same. To what extent, if we fail to effectively or actively position ourselves into what we're seeing emerging now, which is a new economic world order, what would be the potential long-term consequences? You mentioned AI just now. We have BRICS. We have this multipolarity conversation going on. And there's just so much. It's obviously a new economic or new world economic order, economic world order, however you look at it, what are the long-term consequences for us and short-term if we're not able to position ourselves properly in all of that, even as we go to the elections? Let's take a break and come back.
Safe, reliable, great value. Always buy from an authorized IGL dealer. The time by IGL is...
Now, 15 minutes going up to 8 o'clock, and Brother Ako Mutota is on the phone lines. He'll be here at IRA FM, in the courtyard of IRA FM, in the Great House, delivering the keynote address at our annual tribute to Morlemu Marcus Messiah Garvey. So we're looking at the global inflation, Brother Ako. We have the BRICS expansion, we see AI, and we see war all around us. And then the question is, how can Jamaica and CARICOM actively position itself? And if it fails to do so, then what?
If we fail, Sister Kabu, we'll be recolonized. There is no if, maybes, or buts about that. And we never understood that we were not really liberated. And that is a discussion, again, I had a couple of weeks ago, the difference between being emancipated and being liberated. Emancipation was a stage.
Yeah, of course.
And we are on the stage towards liberation.
Yes.
And if we don't have a consciousness of liberation, we will be colonized again. Now, and I say this without any apologies, with some degree of certainty, we are moving into what the former Greek finance minister Yanis Varoufakis called techno. What do you call it? It's a kind of techno-fascism. I think that's the word he uses.
Well, we just call it technocracy right here. So technocracy and transhumanism. Yes.
Yeah, he called it techno-feudalism.
Yes.
Which is different.
Mm-hmm. Of course it is.
You have to understand what feudalism was, right? He calls it techno-feudalism. And one of the terms that emerges out of this concept of techno-feudalism, where technology will dominate, and I'm going to read briefly something from on AI just now, but it's a term we need to be familiar with, that some of the scholars are referring to as part of the twin brother, if you want to call it, of techno-feudalism. It's called kakistocracy. Kakistocracy. And what this term kakistocracy means, it means a government by the least able and least qualified, or the most incompetent people. Right? So while we think we have a democracy, what we really have is a kakistocracy.
Yeah.
Governance by the least capable, least qualified, the most dishonest people. That is why a few months ago I said in a program, we have a paradox. We have lumpen at the top and lumpen at the bottom. Marx concept of the lumpen proletariat. And I said that in the context of what happened, where people will steal money from a national hero like Usain Bolt. They stole Usain Bolt's money. Who would do something like that? Your national hero. So, and yet you're gonna the guy who steal, some breaking a house, a grocery and steal some food, you're going to put the clamps on him.
Or the one who is hungry and pick ackee from the lawns of King's House. Will end up in prison.
Yeah, exactly. And yet those who would steal money from the national hero of Jamaica, Usain Bolt, or destroy.
There's a lot of thieving. There's thieving from Usain Bolt. There's thieving from all of us who have our money in the bank. There's thieving. There's a serious level of thieving from the National Housing Trust. For example, they've got their grubby, sticky fingers in the National Housing Trust, and so there's a lot of corruption. And so the point you're making, Brother Ako, is that if we are not able to rise above that and to be able to position ourselves within the wider global economy, but from through our lenses, because I hear you talk about how we should go about, and you say destroy that system. But all of this this is a conundrum. It's almost conflicting, because if you destroy capitalism, which is the wider global economy, yes, it is techno-feudalism, yes, it is technocracy, but it is built on the principle of capitalism. BRICS and all of them.
Yes, it is. And that is what is emerging in the world. I mean, there is this guy, I think Sam Huntington wrote this book, Clash of Civilizations, right? And there's a group of thinkers, I don't remember their name now, who are saying there shouldn't be a clash of civilizations, but there should be a cooperation of civilizations. And so those ideas are in the public domain. They're not just propagated by the mainstream media, but there are people every day on the ground who are working not toward a clash of civilization, but towards civilization coming together to see how we can change the world. Now, if you look at what is happening, for example, we're going to digress a bit about what is happening with Russia and Ukraine. Mm-hmm. It is very symbolic for us in the Caribbean, because we think it is something remote. I've heard some people say, oh, that's just a white man war. And I had to tell the person, yes, it may be on the surface, but when you look deep beneath, who is fighting Russia?
Yeah.
The French who colonized our ancestors in Africa. The Dutch who created apartheid in South Africa, right? The Germans who killed the Herero people in Namibia and tried to kill the whole world and so on. The British, who we know committed mass murder in India, in the Caribbean and so on. These are the people who are fighting Russia. Now, I am not in favor of one country invading another country. I am not for that at all. I believe in the sovereignty of a country. But you have to look at it differently and see what is happening. And this is what is happening there in that war.
Yes.
It is the emergence of a new world. As Gramsci, I think, put it, he said, while the old world is dying, the new world is being born. It's a time of monsters. So what we may be witnessing, it may be the creation of the new world that is being born out of this bloody monstrosity that we are seeing. You know, so
yes,
go ahead, sir.
So what do Jamaican people do? I mean, I was just speaking earlier on the case in Barbados v. Gaza, and I don't know if you're paying attention to that case that the judge threw out, saying that it was unwinnable, and with. So I was just speaking with the attorney Lalo Human and David Denny. Both of them who brought that. Well, David Denny brought that case. He's a social activist. And one of the things that came out of that, as you look at this, is the extent to which the people, here it is something coming from the people to the courts, that the court is throwing out. So we find ourselves in a situation where, as Caribbean people, wherever we are, we find ourselves on the back foot, where the system is so set against us that they don't even blink anymore to have a ruling like this. The judge said it is unwinnable, talk about political, all kinds of stuff and so on, and that is thrown out. Barbados, which everybody is applauding, is in bed with Israel. Jamaica is wrapped up, tied up in a prostitute relationship with Israel. And this is happening across the Caribbean, while Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. So the bottom line then for us is, where do we go from here? KSO community, and what role does Africa, continental Africa, play in African Caribbean sovereignty and survival?
So the first thing, before I comment on the part of the Africa and the Caribbean, is the judiciary. We live under the misnomer that our judiciary is independent. It is not independent.
That is so true. Yes, we saw that.
Right.
We're seeing that. Yeah.
We live, right. It is all, and it is not loyal to the citizens of the Caribbean.
Yes.
It is loyal to British models, British modes, British traditions, and so on. Right? It is one of the new frontiers of warfare and destabilization by the U.S. The United States is now using the so-called independence of the judiciary all over the world to terrorize and jail people who do not serve American interests. It's a new term called lawfare. Lawfare. And you have seen it in the case of Correa in Ecuador, the socialist prime minister who transformed. They use the law to terrorize him and expel him from his country. You think now there's a case, I think, in Moldova in which there's an opposition figure who they caught jail for 7 years. And our judiciary is not immune to jailing us. This happened to us in Trinidad in 1970.
Yes.
They are not immune from serving the interest of foreign entities because that is who they are aligned to. So when I talk about changing the system, it is not just the economic system, not just the political system. As I think it was Fanon who said it in one of his works. He said if justice is pure, justice could be dispensed under a fig tree or banana tree. We don't need these places, these highfalutin places with these high-sounding phrases to dispense true justice. But it has to come from a place, right, of honesty, a place of sovereignty, a place of liberation, a place of independence. What we have is law and order, not justice. That's why they quickly tell you law and order in the parliament, law and order, as if they're from the Midlands of Britain with their British accents. So we have to understand that the judiciary, the political parties, even to some extent some of the trade unions, the institutions of the society are the problem. They are part of the system that is this apparatus that is on the necks of the people like a yoke. And so how do we do that? We have to do that by a process of decolonization. What is our relationship to Africa? We have to learn from our own indigenous systems in the Caribbean. And we have to learn from our traditional systems in Africa. Now, to some extent, the African elites are no different from us in the Caribbean. I say the Negro in Africa sometimes is worse than the Negro in the Caribbean. They are more colonized than us in some cases.
You're right on that. And this is our condition wherever we are. So obviously we need the thinkers, we need the doers, we need the activism, because as you said earlier, if we can't navigate this period, if we do not navigate this period, then the bottom line for us is to be enslaved again. This is basically where we're going, back into bondage, to be enslaved again, and especially in a system, this techno-feudalism and technocracy and transhumanism that is developing around us. We become the not the workers, but the enslaved once again. Final words from you, Brother Akko, as you come in for Sunday. Looking forward to the event at the Coconut Grove Great House.
So, Sister Kabu, you asked the question, what should we do? Where do we go? And I said we have to learn from our traditions and our ancestry. And I would tell you a system that UNESCO just made into what they call it to protect it. And it's called the Gaza system. And I will just read briefly about the Gaza system. The Gaza system is a traditional indigenous democratic and egalitarian system of governance developed by the Oromo people of Ethiopia. It's a complex socio-political structure that regulates various aspects of Oromo life, including political, economic, social, and religious activities. The Gaza system is based on a generational cycle with different grades of classes, with a rotation into positions of power every 8 years. The point is that in our tradition and in our history and in our legacy, there are ideas that we can embrace in order to transform our societies, whether it is in Jamaica, in Trinidad and Tobago, and the wider Caribbean. One of the most profound statements I heard possibly in the last 10 years is when we had the sister from Haiti, the historian who you introduced me to. I don't remember.
Professor Baina Bello.
Baina Bello.
Yes.
Sister Baina Bello. And she made a statement. She said most people mistook the cacique for a king. She said the cacique was not a king, according to her research. The cacique was a system of governance in which they would appoint people at various points. So in our indigenous societies, whether it is in the Caribbean or in Africa, there are things we can learn to chart and navigate the future of our civilizations.
There's so many examples.
What I want to say.
Yeah, there's so many examples. We have Ma'at from Kimet, and you introduced me to a brother from South Africa who has written a whole book on a cooperative system there in South Africa. Ubuntu, Huno. We have so much, don't we, Brother Akko, to pull from our African-centered mind that it shouldn't be a struggle. But here we are. Looking forward to seeing you on Sunday when you come in, Brother Akko. Safe travels as you come in. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And Brother Akko will be the keynote speaker here at IRFM on Sunday as IRFM continues to celebrate and to pay tribute to Mwalimu Marcus Mosiah Garvey.
The Cashbot a bubble up. Bet $100 or more on your Cashbot number and the same amount on the Mega Ball for a bigger win. The more you bet, the more you get. Double up your Cashbot bet today. The time is
now 8 o'clock. Standing by for our next guest coming online. Hey, by the way, greetings to Wani Dread in Highgate, to Sherman in Hopewell, Marlborough. Sherman, how you doing, my brother? Kevin Log, Jawari, Ras I, Open Aki, and Kalaluman, the brethren and sisters in Carnation Market. Hey, greetings. Highland, don't sell. All right, so much happening on the island, Burning Spears say, my island don't sell out. Today, we are hearing from everyone who has been calling us from the road to say, listen, it is really a buzz. You're saying it and it is true. You're not witnessing it, but you're seeing it. I'm seeing some things too on the social media, mind you, about how excited Jamaican people are about what is unfolding today, which is that the Prime Minister of Jamaica has said that he'll announce the election date today, and this is going to be happening in Halfway Tree. And against that background, we're having various conversations through our Pan-African or African-centered lenses, but also through our youth lenses and our activism lenses, you name it. Because, Jamaica is getting ready once again to go to the polls. On the phone, I think my next very special guest is on the phone lines. My sister friend, Pan-African human rights attorney at law, United Nations Human Rights Fellow for People of African Descent, repertory justice consultant and human rights advocate, young attorney at law, Natisia Bohad Singh. Natisia, you there?
Oh, yes.
Do you... I stress young.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Good to be here.
So you're in Kingston. What are you seeing through your window?
I'm not seeing a thing, because the way how out the door look.
Mm-hmm.
I joke, it bleak a little bit.
Okay.
But I'm not supposed to be in Kingston.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I don't even. Are you in Kingston actually? I don't know where you are.
I am in Kingston nominally.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna let you go quickly so that you can leave in time. But yes, a lot of excitement in Jamaica today, and but one of the things that we're noticing at the same time, though, and I know that as a young attorney at law and as somebody who's an activist, an advocate, a human rights attorney at law, that this is something that you've been paying attention to also, which is the disengagement, youth disengagement, the erosion of trust and all of apathy among young people, especially millennials. This is it's a weird situation. I'm not saying that we were much different, the Gen X, not you, our people, the Gen Xers. But it's a whole other kind of things that I'm noticing when it comes to engagement within the political context of young people in Jamaica. What are you seeing? Am I right on this? Are you seeing this?
No, you're absolutely correct. And I know apathy runs through not just the young, right?
Right.
Because if you even as a Jamaican, loving to have discussions with persons about not just the electoral process, but the systems that are working for them and not working for them. in human rights, you get to the center of that quickly because you interface with challenges that might not be seen directly as a political linkage. So if somebody, for example, is going to lose their house because, they're a person living with a disability, you are going to want to look at the core as to if the system is working. And in those conversations, you will understand their views on how their lives are shaped by government or the inactive nature of government for them as an individual dealing with those intersecting realities, right? So we can locate it like that. Talking to my peers, even persons who are not in the professional arms, so to speak, you get a sense of people just, I'm not interested in none of the two voting patterns that we're going to go do is going to work for me. And persons are usually, if we give people the credibility to make decisions for themselves and the good of their households, they understand why they don't vote or why they vote. I think getting to the root of those things, even though, when I listened to your guest earlier, and even through my own readings, I understand the systemic nature of democracy and its failures. I mean, I have been doing some work recently and looking at democracy and studies in democracy because, I do different consultation over time. Yes. And having to buck up, for example, on a study by Vanderbilt University and USA talking about the indicators themselves of democracy, even before we go to the level of the ground where we say what people are saying. The indicators of democracy as a system of governance that governs Jamaica and some of our Caribbean brothers and sisters, those indicators are saying that, democracy itself is failing when it comes to offer what is promised: liberty, broad participation, citizenship, security, human rights, inclusive development, etc.
And of course, we see it crumbling in the United States right before our eyes. It has crumbled over the last few years. We see a similar thing right before our eyes now, acting out in the UK today. I don't know if you're seeing what's happening in the UK right now with the demonstrations. I mean, how can you? There are people demonstrating right now against genocide in Gaza, but they're being arrested. They're being arrested. No, but I interrupted you to say yes. The point you're making is well taken. That democracy has failed. So you're locating this in a wider context. Right. To say this feeds back into the apathy that we're seeing on the ground.
Absolutely, and that if we're going to contextualize it as a thing where we say, okay, NGOs were formed out of this, right? Or when we were, I'm going to use the word granted loosely, when we were granted independence, for example.
We took independence.
No, you know what it means loosely. But when we took independence, there must have been a vehicle, and I argue it like this. There was a vehicle that we used to move through the processes in the political sense. And that happened to be coming out of the colonial era, the constitutional monarchy style. But I think I'm saying here, I strongly believe, because of the work I do, I'm always optimistic that we can build upon any system, we can change any system, we can chip away at any system. We just need to understand the tools that we're going to be using and why. And I think some of us got lost in that why in terms of leaders. Yes. So we come in with the best of intention and we campaign on why we come from Granville. So me I go say, me never have no house, no toilet in my house, I never whatever. Me I go make sure so you get toilet in your house, but as soon as I get there, I forget the fact that these are the things I campaign on. And there are many other reasons.
It is funny, because the Prime Minister made the very same statement and I'm sure the story is out today. I think it's on the weekend, might have been yesterday or the day before, where he talked about apathy, and he talked about the fact that one of the reasons for that has to do with broken promises. But the Prime Minister is a part of that problem. So too. So we find it from the two political parties, but it is years and years and years. Could it, the extent to which, and let's focus, there's apathy all around, because we look at the turnout for the last election. We're seeing a little bit more energy this time around. I don't know what it is going to translate into. But there's a process in terms of getting out the vote, and people have to register to vote, don't it?
Right, yeah, man. And And even now, we see that some persons don't even register. So even the process of getting to the polling station is being stalled by what people conceive to be a waste of their time. And maybe we do understand it. But, you know, my sister, I've been with you in terms of listening to you. I understand how you see this in the last election. I think I'm also saying there's another side to it that says, okay, I don't vote. I've had cause to think about the not voting aspect of it. Is it that we're ultimately allowing persons to rule by default, so to speak? You know, I know there's a heavy conversation about yes, apathy, but then again, is there the default governance system that has been happening? Because I think in that very story that I quoted, as I say, I had time to read, one of the conversations is that yes, it questions the very low turnout, even question the democratic reign of the period. So when you have a very low turnout, I think you said, I remember in the last election, one of the commentaries you made was pretty much that, the legitimacy of government. When you have a very low turnout, where the majority is not voting in the government of the day. It calls into question even the legitimacy. Not me saying.
Of course, but of course it does. No, but of course it does. And this is my personal thinking on the matter. So that even where we are now, that is a question that must be asked and answered. But let us talk now about re-engagement, because. Obviously, and you've pointed to the system, democracy itself that is feeding back locally, but also talking about what's happening on the ground. You, one of the things you said before we talk about re-engagement, you said the root causes. I know you specifically look at the broader issue of democracy. The other thing you're saying is that there is broken promises. Election campaign promises unfulfilled. So then how do we re-engage people? As a UN fellow yourself, somebody who has been, and you've been actively engaged in developing strategies for the World Bank, for the United Nations, for international bodies. Help us understand that. How do we, and can we re-engage, not just the youth, but specifically the youth in this, in the political process?
Absolutely, and I'm glad you mentioned the World Bank, because the type of work that I've been helping the World Bank with as one of their expert contributors on gender equality, you get to look at the intersecting realities of what's happening with people, and it's the legal part of the work. And one of the things that I know for sure is that if you sincerely, and notice the word I'm using, if you sincerely remedy some of the things that you see in front of you that are broken, like your drive on the road, for example. I crossed to be in Montego Bay the other day and had to go through somewhere, and I couldn't believe that so anybody would walk on those roads to go campaign with a straight face. You get my point? Like if you see in front of you what is really taking place with people who you have promised to serve, something must shift in how you do. And I'm saying it takes this, even if you start out with bad intentions and you just wanted the power and you're going there, I believe that once you really interface with the people and see the struggle, something must shake. Because if something not shake, then we have another level of, what you call it, healing that has to take place. And I think you get what I'm saying.
Yes.
The people are really out there trying to get solutions. People don't come out and want to cuss government because they want to. The pride alone sometimes don't make people come out and talk about them have water for 10 years. You know?
Yes.
But when we see people come out and have to do that, I watched the news intensely. I listen to when people have to talk. I listen to all the sound. And when you see the levels and the varying levels of this content, you understand that something is wrong from the ground up. And it's not about just this year, last 5 years. You know? So I think that if politicians in general, and I'm saying politicians, engage their minds first, like us as some human rights practitioners, When we go to serve, and part of why I am a human rights lawyer and probably not doing other areas of law, and I think you know this more than most, is because I have to engage myself in my practice before I can engage people. And I think a lot of self-engagement need to happen, whether you were born in St. Andrew, Upper St. Andrew, but you're going to politics, or you're born down at Tivoli and you see a kind of standardized politics. You have to engage yourself as to what you want to be in the process of whatever change, you know?
Yes.
And so that's how I see it.
All right, hold the line for me. Let me take a quick break. Attorney at law, a youth herself, United Nations Human Rights Fellow for People of African Descent, reparatory justice consultant and human rights advocate. And we're talking about voter apathy versus voter urgency and looking at strategies for re-engagement. And Nati says, thank you for hanging on.
Yeah.
As we were going into the break, you talked about how we must each take responsibility for our spaces, for where we are, for ourselves, and for our, and that point is well taken. But let me ask you also, what role do you think, if any, education and civic awareness programs play in rebuilding the political trust and encouraging youth participation in elections? They're probably too late now for people to register, but what role do you think these two institutions play?
Sensitization is always the thing that we look to when we think we want to have mass education around something. And education in itself is the tool. It's the how in the education, bringing the message to the people and also proving to people by example. That's a form of education. And so I'm locating methodologies.
Yes.
It's not about just the 1 year leading up to election or the 6 months that people need to understand the importance of elections. I say this in the way in which you're engaging me as part of the young population, the future, but coming from also another arm.
Yes.
We need to see governments working to understand why we also need to put ourselves in the mix, and also we need to want to even come out and stand in a line to vote.
Yes.
So part of the education is active participation in the doing, so that we can not just understand the theoretical aspects of why we need to vote, but seeing the benefits of voting. Again, we are dealing with human beings. You know, they talk about bread and butter issues. That is it, you know.
Yes.
A lot of the people who you see go standing some of these lines is because they can tell you them bread and butter issues and how it is being met. It is the reality of the day.
Yes.
Some people may not consider those things to be a reason for them. But the level of understanding of why I need to vote is going to be based on how the theory, as I said, the academic things too, can say, okay, I am in school and I am a progressive person, in quotes. I understand the value of it, and so I may go stand in a polling station. But when you bring it to my level in a way that suggests that I am going to be an active agent of change in your life, that is also going to educate me to want to. I can tell you, my sister, that in my activism, I am actually ashamed of some of our leaders. Because when I am at the international level and some very critical things, me not see Jamaica. So as a professional arm of the country,
yes,
I could tell you that if I am going to vote, if I believe enough in democracy, right, to say me as a vote, because I don't want to be accounted among the non-voters, because I believe theoretically in the system of democracy, that with the experiences I have would then determine how I vote. But there's also the how.
And the how. So let's talk about the how, because this would be tied then now to policies and to not just a one central manifesto, but things that you can engage your member of parliament on, and you vote along those lines as opposed to voting for the prime minister. Because here in Jamaica now, people vote for who they want to be the prime minister. No, say it go.
Right. And you don't just come with a set of things that you think is what the country needs. So that's and it's on both sides, right?
Yeah.
I see the mistake all the time where I am going to put out 5 indicators because somewhere along the line, whether they had a what you call it, a SWOT analysis done, or it's that they do some of these political strategy where they sit in a room and they do a test of what they think. It is always going to be that you hit where it is going to matter the most. Because if you are fixing the train line and people not take train, you have a problem.
Well, we had a train that derailed up in Bagua Gorge yesterday. And a lot of people...
It's an example, though. But you're gone with the train. Go on.
But I know it was an example, but we have to bring the train in. Because the domino effect of that train being derailed, and I'm really sorry about it all, just to see that happen, is that people are impacted in terms of water. That is the first thing. Electricity, so many things got impacted, and I'm not sure if they're all back now. But that goes back again to how engaged we are in terms of what's in our communities, how our communities are, and all of that. So I was just connecting the thing because I know that there's a connection there. The train derailed. But okay, so I hear you, Natisia, in terms of why people, the how of why people should vote.
Because I'm saying, Cabo, just to interject to say that, to build upon the point I'm making, I'm saying we have been taught, we live in a predominantly black population because that is our reality. As your guest mentioned earlier, Trinidad has a makeup which is a little different from Jamaica, and so people vote, right? So if we're intelligent, not dealing with intellectual now, if we're intelligent leaders, we're going to want to first understand how we population make up, what kind of historical context we're coming out, because we cannot divorce that, no matter how we want to. And I have to look through my work through those lenses. You have to look at the historical makeup, whether or not the vehicles of democracy was made and built for us, and how it's not serving us. So you have to kind of do a decolonial approach. And make sure that I preach to the choir. It's a decolonial lens I am arguing for in everything we do, and build upon that.
So there is work to be done, even as the Prime Minister announces the election date today. I was talking to you about 5 weeks ago, and you told me the election is going to be on September 3.
You know what, sir? No, you know what, sir? How me to know that? Me of all the people them, you know what, me of all the people them not going to know that. Me far out from the limb, I'll drop off of the limb.
Well, listen, I'm going to come on the people and read and say election is going to be on September 3. So let's see what
you but you want everybody to think of me, say, you see friends like you, man.
But, I really think we need political re-engagement, not just for party politics, but so that young people can become part of the political machinery that is going to carry the nation forward outside of political tribalism. And this is, I think, our challenge, Natisia. I think this is a big challenge that we face. So you have 1 minute to say a final word in terms of what you would like to see and how you can see how this can happen.
Well, the truth is, I am thinking, and I've been thinking, some of us need to get involved in all the different ways we can, in terms of changing the system if we can, however we can. And I think I have been reading the room in that way, and that we have to re-engage ourselves along the line of getting involved in these things that can have really adverse effects on people's lives if we don't have a plan for them before we reach a garden house. And that we have to also take the issues that our population face on a day-to-day to heart enough to create solutions for them, and not the other way around. So we cannot build a suit without taking the measurement first. And I think once we get into that mindset, whether younger politicians, older politicians, and that if there's a problem with how the links are made between NGOs or legislation, all the things that we use as to be a total functioning country, then we have to fix those. And we have to be mindful also of some of the conventions we sign on to, and the things that responsibilities we have, and not really make it have a trickle-down effect. Same thing with the domestic law conversation that my brother was having on the Israel-Palestine thing, not trickling down into the local legislation, so we don't have no moral guide and impetus.
All right, thank you so much, my sister friend Leticia Hard Singh. We invite you to the studio next time so we can have a wider conversation, not just about the derailed in the gorge. An update on that. The Gleaner is reporting that the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining has launched an investigation into the derailment of that train at the entrance of the rail tunnel to the Bogwalk Gorge in St. Catherine yesterday. Senior Superintendent Hopeton Nicholson, head of St. Catherine North Police, confirmed that no injuries were reported. The train, which is operated by bauxite company Windalco, left the tracks, derailing 3 cars and damaging a utility pole. The incident led to the temporary closure of the gorge, causing significant traffic delays as a team from the Jamaica Public Service worked to restore power. Mining Minister Floyd Green expressed relief that no lives were lost and emphasized the priority of safety for workers, communities and infrastructure, and that's in a statement on Saturday evening. So that's the update. I want to go now to my next very special guest on the phone line, General Secretary-elect of the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students. He holds a political science degree from the University of the West Indies, Mona. And we're talking about Dante Minto. Dante Minto, thank you so much for joining us inside of the Africa Forum this morning.
Hello, good morning. Nice to be here.
Right. So we're talking about what's happening today, of course, in Halfway Tree and the excitement around that. Are you feeling the excitement?
Oh, yes. Such a intense political season, it's coming to climax, and we're looking forward to, hearing the future plans from the Prime Minister later today.
Mm-hmm. And we're talking to you within your capacity as a youth. I know that you're very mature and all of that, but we're talking to you as a young person who is the General Secretary-elect of the Union of Tertiary Students, but who is engaging with young people generally. And just off the top of your head, are you noticing, as Leticia and myself just discussed a while ago, and so many persons have been talking about, the Prime Minister himself raising that last night, that there is some level, a great level, more than just some, a great level of voter apathy among young people in Jamaica?
Yes, there is. There's a great level of apathy. We see a lot of young persons who, they just simply are not interested in the entire political process or voting. And it happens for a number of reasons. But yes.
What do you think are some of the main causes of that? What are the reasons?
Well, one of the main causes I've seen, or I could theorize, if I could, is some level of generational apathy. You didn't do anything for my parents. Parents come with that attitude, say, politicians make promises and nothing is done. And, young persons grow up hearing that sentiment and somewhat seen it to be true. So because, there is some level of trust erosion, there has been decades of trust erosion, and, all politics is going from a place in the 70s and 80s where, some persons would kind of attribute some very bad things to our politics. So there are some young persons who are pretty much good persons who just, are not interested in being associated with, how our politics can be done. That's nasty. So that's one of the reasons I shared earlier that, some persons just learn from their parents that, this politics thing is foolishness and, they don't deliver, they make promises, they don't deliver. So, persons kind of double down and, I guess, and, live in that reality too.
What kind of engagement is there now from political activists, not partisan, but political activists who are concerned about this or not, among whether it's tertiary or high school students? Because I remember when I was in high school, I was walking up and down handing out the copies of the Constitution because Joan Williams and Jeffrey Mordecai came to my school and asked for those who were interested, and we were walking the beat handing out the copies of the Constitution. So I'm just wondering if things have changed drastically and if young people are being engaged actively?
I mean, young persons are engaged. Let's make the picture clear. You have young persons like myself, and I have a number of friends who are involved in, politics and doing the type of things you described at this young age. But there are still other persons who are not interested. They ask, what are the things being done? There are forums, and some MPs, some activists ask for help on the ground during this election, and they include young persons. So there is that, but still not enough to capture everybody. Mm-hmm. Some of us are enticed, some of us are captured through the classroom, but there's still a great majority. Who, shuns political activity at this age.
Mm-hmm. Can anything be done about it?
Well, a lot of things can be done, but it's no quick fix. It's not a yesterday issue, so I don't expect it to be a tomorrow solution, tomorrow solved.
What are some of the long-term things, if any, you think?
I think it will take some deliberate acts from the politicians themselves or the policymakers to practice what I call, organizational politics. Mm-hmm. This is where they target a group, and in this case, it will be, some group of young persons who are usually disengaged and say, here's a problem you have. This is how, my political power can solve it. Please support me. And then we work to solve it. But it is incumbent upon the policy maker then go forward and, solve it and show that group to say, we can do things. Things can happen. Things can come from your political action and my political power. Let us work together. It's incumbent on them to do that, to build up that level of trust.
All right, hold that point for me, because I think that's a brilliant point. Hold that point for me. Let me take a quick break.
Please.
Ruby's Portmore Causeway is now...
A political scientist on the phone lines with me as we talk about voter apathy in Jamaica versus voter urgency, and looking specifically at our young people, but also want to look at some of the strategies for re-engagement. And you were saying, Dante, that there is a responsibility that rests on the shoulders of those who are making policies, but also a more face-to-face or physical engagement that points young people to what it means for them and for the nation to be politically engaged. Yeah.
Yeah. So it just really is some promises with visible follow-through. Mm-hmm. When there's visible follow-through to say, we've done this for you, so maybe target, BPO sector, or I see in the agricultural sector there is a lot of targeting, so kudos to them on that. But I hope that there is some level of showing the follow-through to say, this is what we have done and this is why you should support, you should engage in political action. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no matter where, because these things can affect you. Mm-hmm. Another thing we have to do with messaging, we have to show young persons the stakes. Yeah. A lot of young persons don't see that, this government can drastically change the structures around you. This government can change the world you live in. You see that up north with Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. Political power is real power, and it can affect your life. So maybe our messaging and the reality needs to confront, young persons for them to see high stakes, and then hopefully use the word just more urgency. Mm-hmm. Hopefully there will be some urgency for them to get involved.
Mm-hmm. For the organization you belong to, which is the General Secretary-elect of the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students, how can spaces like that, the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students, impact some of what you just described?
100%. The Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students, we are in charge nationally for all tertiary students across Jamaica. Mm-hmm. And as such, we have a responsibility. One of our duties and one thing that we have tried to do, our past administration has tried to do over the years, is to try to promote civic engagement and voter apathy. So what we usually do is have forums where persons come sit here about all the reasons why they should vote. But I think we have to move past that now. Mm-hmm. I think we have to engage and engage our power. Our power to bring policymakers and young persons together. To try to unionize, if I may use that term, to unionize. I know it's a tricky term, but to unionize the students to say, these are the things we're bargaining for. These are the things we want. Any of you political parties who can provide this thing, we'll vote for it. When we vote for it, we're going to hold you accountable. And, if it doesn't happen, then there will be consequences. We have to return to that level, and it's basic. We have to return to that level of union bargaining. When we group persons together, that becomes in politics what you call the word is escaping me. But essentially together there is 4 in numbers, right? And those numbers might be useful to politicians.
It's a critical mass. And usually that works. And this is what I was referring to, because this is something that I experienced through my high school years and into tertiary. But I am Gen X and you're all Gen Zs and millennials. So that I see that it's a little bit different. At the same time, though, I'm noticing that there seems to be I will talk about that critical mass, but there is I see a handful of young people engaged not just in the process of voting or trying to get out of vote, but putting themselves in the process.
Yes.
Your own thinking about that, because this is also an area which I'm not quite sure if young people generally are thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to go into politics. What do you think is causing this change? And this is a recent change that I'm noticing over the last 5 years or so.
So you fell out of it. You're saying the change you're noticing is that young persons are putting themselves forward, eh? Okay.
A handful.
I mean, through where I've been, politics and young persons, because I'm going to UMONA. And, UMONA has been a conduit for decades for politicians. So it's really why you're seeing it now in the major parties. A lot of parties use some of the young persons to, bring in a new bit. Because you mentioned it earlier, you're Gen X, you're Gen Z. Each political party has a responsibility to, engage on their voter base. So you see from time to time, and I wish it was more. I wish it happened more. I don't think it happens enough.
No,
and I always see it happen on any side, where young persons are, brought and they're trained and they're put there. Political parties use it as, as I said earlier, bringing in young persons and new ideas. It works not only in Jamaica, it works around the world. And I encourage all political parties to, engage youth more. And don't just use youth as rubber stamps. That's one of the things I hate. We just think that we're here to make numbers or to just support it blindly. No, we have things that we want. We have things that we will ask for and we'll try to bargain for.
Yes.
And if you engage with us on that level and show us that your political power, can do something for us, you have support of the youth. You have support.
Yes, well said. Finally, Dante, and you alluded to this at the beginning of a conversation, which is that young people generally, and not just young people, but there is people are losing trust in political parties and politicians. And in your view, what responsibility do you think that political parties have and politicians to regain that trust of young voters and to motivate them to participate and to be active in this process?
Well, I think they have a great responsibility to do that, because at the end of the day, it doesn't make sense you build a country or use your political power when only a handful of persons voted for it. It is the responsibility of any political party to ensure that the democracy is engaged and informed. So young persons form a critical voting bloc. That was where escaping there. They're a critical voting bloc. And it's very important. I don't know stress, but it's hard to say in words. It's very important that the future of the country is engaged in the current policy making or the current leadership of the country. Because at the end of the day, I don't even like to say we're just the future now, but we're the present. We're now. What you're doing matters now and will affect us decades to come. When decades to come, you're gone. So it makes a lot of sense for you to make a strident effort to inform young person and also to engage young person and to ensure that, we're part of the entire process, to ensure that, things are happening in the right direction, with us a part of it.
We have so much work to do because there's a question of are the two political parties redundant in terms of where we are now for young people in particular, and there's another thing that we're noticing, which is that the elders are not stepping away, so that your bond comes to them and they're not leaving until they die. So that's a whole other thing. And there's also the push for third terms, which is what we're seeing now, for example. How that feedback to young people before you? How you think all of those feedback?
Tell you what, one sore point is definitely, older persons being in there and not stepping out. Because it's not only that they're not stepping out, they're taking up a lot of space. Young persons sometimes will be around, have a lot of things to say, but can't say it because they fear what these older persons will do. So essentially, we are told to kind of submit and stay in line and stay on price. But you'll recognize and you'll appreciate that sometimes youthful brilliance and sometimes exuberance can be a force for change. So what I think the political parties should do, I don't think the parties themselves are done that, but I think their systems are done that. I think what they need to do is allow young persons to have a greater voice. Greater voice. And maybe that this is also incumbent on the young persons to, use their voices. But it's important that the parties allow space for young persons to have greater voice. So discourse can happen. And sometimes there is disagreement, but you take that as an opportunity to come and inform and engage us. So I think the elders now are preaching, or would have in the past practiced a lot of conformity. We young persons, you need to allow it. And we see it in other states where young persons come up and they I don't want to say strictly speak against their party, but I'd say it in nicer terms where they introduce ideas, untraditional ideas to their party, and that increases the party's vote and support base. And I think we need to incorporate more of that system in Jamaica.
All right. Thank you so much, Dante Minja. It was a pleasure talking to you. I'll invite you back also. Really want to kind of flesh this out some more, and also to talk to you some more about the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students. Thank you, my brother. All right.
Thank you. Have a good program.
Yes, thank you so much. Dante Minto, General Secretary-elect of the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students and a political scientist. He holds a political science degree from the University of the West Indies, Mona. Lines right now, but we are going to be having a conversation about this third-term mandate and the historical precedents in Jamaican politics, but also to look broadly at what's unfolding today within the context, our context, the lens where we look through right here. So we don't have no color problem. We see everything in black, and not only that, we have a right to a Pan-African opinion, and that's what we do here. So to the phone lines and to speak with Pan-African political historian and broadcaster Jerry Small. My brother Jerry Small, thank you so much for joining us on the phone lines. You there, Jerry? No, if Jerry's there, I'm not hearing him, but let's see. All right, no? All right. Tell me what's happening, because I'm not hearing Jerry. But let me know. All right, so Jerry Small is our next guest coming up. So you heard, as Jerry will be here shortly, we heard about a helicopter crash in Ghana, right? And lots of questions around that because there are... Well, yeah, people are raising questions. They're talking about the helicopter and the make of the helicopter. They are talking about a plot to break Ghana and to destroy the AES countries. we understand there is a storm brewing over Ghana, and we have a very long article written by, let me see if I can get to the end of it, that was sent to me from Ghana. And yeah, it's pretty long. Trying to get to the end because the byline is literally at the end of the article. And as I stand by for Jerry, okay, let me see. Wow, it's such a long article, and it is sent to me by WhatsApp, right? So, okay, so it's written by Onioma Iwachinermir from Media One Africa. So Onioma from Media One Africa is calling on African people to not to be blind, to be vigilant, saying history is not repeating itself, it is being re-executed with a better PR. And he talks about how what happened may determine whether the AES dream and freedom in greater parts of Africa lives or dies. And he says if Ghana fails, the AES is next. If Ghana stands, and Africa rises. And he also talks about the time for vigilance, for unity, for intelligence, and for revolution. He said, we have seen it in Libya, in Sudan, in Mali, in Ethiopia, in Burkina Faso, and now in Ghana. He says, this is not the time for silence. This is not the time for tribalism. This is not the time for politicians. That the African continent is not free, and Ghana is once again the battleground. But this time, we know the playbook. It's very interesting because we have been paying attention to this, the helicopter crash in Ghana, where ministers of government, were killed on that. We understand that the president himself was due to be on that plane. This is what we're hearing, but cancelled at the last minute. So there's just a whole lot to unpack with what's happening in Ghana. I do think I have Jerry on the phone lines. No? All right. Tell me what's happening. I heard that Jerry's coming in studio, and then okay, let me see. I'm trying to figure this out. Jerry, that sounds like you. Where are you, Jerry? No, it didn't come out. I don't have you. I don't. It didn't come out. All right. So, but you're on now.
Yes.
Okay, but I heard you were at the gate, Jerry.
You heard me what?
I heard you were in the vicinity of Irie FM.
No. I was at my gate.
Oh, goodness gracious. So here I am just holding on to see you in the studio for the surprise. Anyway, I'm glad that you're not traveling to Otrius anyway. I wouldn't want you on the road today at all.
No.
I can just imagine the badness in Kingston. So we've been having conversations around what's about to unfold in Kingston today. Your immediate response to what's unfolding in Kingston there?
Yeah, it's 2 days. It's not yesterday. It's from yesterday morning. Them block off the whole place now.
Oh, it's
from
yesterday
morning. 2 days them a block off the whole place to make them political meeting. But it's the usual con game, you know.
Yeah, it's what I'm noticing also, and we've been talking about some of the road changes, and motorists are having a whole lot of changes happening today. Also with parking, so that for those people who are going into Kingston or you're in Kingston, you're heading to Halfway Tree, there are a whole lot of changes, so pay attention to that. Jerry, help us to understand how this works. So when the election is called, then what?
No, when them announce the date, they have to announce the date of the election, then they announce the nomination day. It have to be a certain numbers of days from today, the nomination day, and the election day have to be a certain numbers of days from that date.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what they're proceeding with.
So after this, then you have a minimum amount of days to nomination, and then
yes, that's why, as Letitia was telling you, the other side had estimated that the date announced would be somewhere about the 2nd of September. I don't know if that's still whole.
No, it's not. Not easy to tell me. I was just trying to get her in a mix up.
Yes, party.
So, right. So, but we've been saying that it looks like September 3 because when you look at it, back to school and all of that. And so somebody had said to me that's August 27th. But before we go into this, the Prime Minister is looking for a third term. But before we go into that,
the party are looking for third term.
The party is looking.
The Prime Minister is not elected. The Prime Minister is not elected by the people of Jamaica.
True.
They elect MPs, and then the MP choose for them Prime Minister. And he's not the Prime Minister of Jamaica. He's the Prime Minister of King Charles of England. He's not the Prime Minister of Jamaica. He's the Prime Minister of King Charles' government in Jamaica. He served. The word minister means servant, and he's serving King Charles, not the people of Jamaica.
And so too is the opposition. His Majesty.
Yes, the opposition also is the King's law. The name of the opposition is the King's Loyal Opposition. The name of the government is the name of the winning party is the administration. The two of them form the government.
Yes.
The one that wins form the administration, and the one that comes second form the King's Loyal Opposition. That's why they name it that, because all of them are loyal to the King of England and the Queen of England.
Yeah.
None of them is serving us. None.
And that's the thing. I was talking earlier with Brother Akamotota, and he talks about the system that this you really for the masses of the people, whether it is Jamaica or wherever we are in the Caribbean, the way politics run, and this idea of democracy, which is not really a functioning democracy, that for Jamaican people to survive and to be successful and productive, and for the masses of the Jamaican people to have any kind of sovereignty, that you have to mash down this system totally. Do you agree with that?
Yes, of course I do. Of course I do. The people of Jamaica still have to liberate themselves. They are not yet We have not completed our liberation. That is what it is about.
Mm-hmm.
The PNP and the JLP were set up by Britain. The PNP and the JLP were set up by Britain and America in 1938. Not set up by the people of Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
And they organized for them to take the government, the local government of Jamaica, and serve the King and Queen of England.
Mm-hmm.
Then 10 years after they set up that, the American government approached the PNP and told them that they will allow them to win the next 2 terms if they get out the communists. So the PNP agreed with it and made a deal to get out the Marxists and the communists, and they kicked them out in 1952. And then the American England put in the PNP in 1955. It's an arrangement. Every country that they control, they always have 2 main parties, even in America. 2 main parties, and all other parties are suppressed and not allowed to reach any side. Mm-hmm. Same thing in America, same thing in England, all over. Anywhere they establish them thing is a 2-party government them deal with.
Mm-hmm.
They don't deal with democracy, multi-party democracy. They only want 2 parties, and they swap them between one another every 2 terms or so. So that's system.
Yeah. Jerry, let me ask you this. What do you think about the fact that since 1980, and it's a point you raised here when you were here last, 2 weeks ago, that the voter turnout in Jamaica, one of the highest we have seen was 1980, which was considered the bloodiest year, the bloodiest election, etc., etc. And but that from that, we're seeing less and less and less and less, to the point where it was just, what was it? We have 63% of the people who didn't vote in the last election.
In the last general election, and in the last local government election, 70% of the people never vote. 70.
How do you analyze this?
Well, the people are getting more understanding that these parties do not represent them, and the younger the population gets, the population knows that none of these parties represent them. So it's the diehards of the population vote for the 2 parties. And the last time the diehards of the party came up to 37%, almost like 1/3.
Mm-hmm.
1/3 of the people alone between the 2 parties. The majority of the people of Jamaica do not defend them or vote for them because they know they are no good. They have been set up by England and America. The JLP and the PNP are the creatures of England and America, not of the people of Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
So the people of Jamaica now are going to gradually organize themselves and throw these guys, and throw some of them in prison too.
Mm-hmm. Do you think what would initiate the change? Because as a nation, and we still have to think, as Ernest Smith said, are we building a nation or are we building a hut?
Yes.
And it seems that we're still building a hut. But if we're to develop as a nation, a sovereign nation,
yes,
then there has to be some kind of change in this regard in terms of the political engagement.
Education. No, the education system in Jamaica was set up to train people to serve England. Don't you understand that?
Of course.
And I think the majority of your listeners understand that. The educational system in Jamaica was set up by England to train people to serve England. They set up 2 things. They set up the church system to to propagandize the people into Christendom, to say that they are part of Christendom. And they set up the educational system to train them to work for the English. Those more educated work in middle position like management and supervisor and slave driver. And those with less education learn how to use the machines, learn how to read, to count. Say only 5 pounds of sugar must go up on that scale. Mm-hmm. So the lower educated people trained to do jobs, the working class jobs of running machine and wrapping sugar and counting the time before the next donkey cart going to come. And the one with more education trained to manage, supervise, and punish the ones lower. But the educational system and the church system, it told them it's two educational systems to climatize the people to work for Britain. Mm-hmm. And then now we now in turn, the only way we can get out these people, and we will do so, we are an educational system. Do you know that you are an educational system? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you're celebrating 35 years. Mm-hmm. And you started as a teenager, can you imagine? Just like how the other person before. Yeah. It is remarkable how many of our people start from they are very young. Yeah. They start to do the work that they have to do before they even know the name of the job. Yeah. Because it's an instinctive thing. Fighting for freedom is an instinctive thing, and you learn how to organize. And you teach people how they got into the situation that they are in now. Because people need to know, how the hell did we get here? How did we get to hell? Mm-hmm. And that's why the Old Testament was written. Moses needed to help show the people how the hell did they reach in this situation. Then after you find out how you reach in this situation, now you start to organize how to get out. That's the New Testament. Mm-hmm. So you are an educational institution in Jamaica. You personally and your radio station differently, two educational institutions. And it is growing more and more. We the people, when we get me and you get education and go high school, we were meant to become middle managers and so on. Mm-hmm. But we decide to donate our energy to the work in the mass of the people. Yes. And most of the so-called uneducated people. So what we do is what them call class suicide. You're supposed to be a big thing now looking down on the rest of the people, but it's from your teenager you serve them. You call that class suicide. So you kill yourself as a middle class. And you work for the working class people. You might have a middle class job, or you might have a middle class standard of living because you're earning good money. But your mind is not there. Your mind is on liberation. So thousands and thousands more people who have received education walk away from that Lodge group and Kiwanis group and JCs and all those groups that are arranged to keep it together and work for you must work for the money people and the politicians and England. But most of a lot of our educated people decide we are doing no such thing, and we are building an educational institution because we have to first let the people know properly how them reach where them is, and that they can combine and outvote these 37%. We can do so, and we will do so.
The rally in Halfway Tree today, and the fact that the Prime Minister is about to announce the date for the election so that we see everything that's happening around us. It's a lot of madness. We're getting quite a few photographs and videos and so on coming in because people want me to talk about it and talk about it in this way. But we're looking at the broader picture, right, to say here we are, two political parties from 1962 till now, and the more things change, the more they remain the same. Jerry, there has been a discussion on constitutional reform, but somehow it seems to be, we hear the ads and so on, but something seemed to have gone totally awry with that whole conversation. Are you paying attention, and what's your thinking on what happened there, and why didn't it take a more center stage or even on the ballot for this election?
A constitution is an agreement by which an organization or a nation is governed, rules that have to be followed by everyone, from the head of the organization to all of the members. All have to follow those rules and stay within those rules. They call it constitution. So you have organizations that have constitution, like Boy Scouts and service groups, and you have nations that have constitution. Those nations that are not run by, that are not organized along dictatorship. So now the constitution that was published in 1962 is a con game. It was not agreed on by the people of Jamaica. The PNP and the JLP leaders was carried to England and they were bribed. England wrote that constitution and gave them, and they stamped it and approved it. Siaga was the youngest person in that constitutional committee, 31 years old, and supposed to be so bright. And Holness here now is the successor of him. But all of them, including Norman Manley and Bustamante, agreed to this constitution that Jamaica must not be an independent country, but must be a country underneath the Queen, and the Queen is the head of state. Mm-hmm. And the Queen representative in Jamaica, the Governor General, is the head of the local government, and then a Prime Minister. Minister, the word minister means servant, and every British colony or dominion has a Prime Minister. Prime means first. A Prime Minister means chief servant. And they are chief servant to the Crown of England, to the King or Queen of England, not to the people of Jamaica. So that constitution was agreed on by the JLP and the PNP in 1962, and it was given to them. It was not they who wrote it, and the Jamaican people had no input in the composition of that constitution. Mm-hmm. So now, for years now, because the people of Jamaica have demanded to come from out of English Commonwealth and to come from underneath the Queen or underneath the King, because of the increase in demand over the last maybe 30 years, or more than 30 years, from in the 70s it was promised. Mm-hmm. Nearly 50 years now, they claim that they are going to rewrite a new constitution, but they have no intention of the people of Jamaica participating in that discussion. Mm-hmm. The so-called elected officials, they make up between them. The JLP and the PNP are part of one another. Don't be fooled. Mm-hmm. They are part of one another, just like how the Democrat, although it's a Trump and the Republicans going on with all kind of things in America. The Democrats is the same people, and now the American people have realized over the last few decades. Go on. Summary. the Democrat and the Republican, the two of them is the same thing, and they are interchangeable. Right. And that's why they cross the floor and go from one party to the other and back, like some would and others. Mm-hmm. And so that
unless it's repealed and replaced, the constitutional reform process, which, as you rightly point out, doesn't really involve to the extent that it should the people of Jamaica. It doesn't matter who win this election. It is still, you're saying it is still a con.
Both of them are in agreement.
Yes.
Both the PNP, all you see them pretend like they are so different from one another. There is a difference, there are some difference between them, but these are minor differences. Mm-hmm. Just like the difference between the Republican and the Democrats in America is minor difference. Yes. And the difference between Labour and Conservative in England is minor differences. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I know that a lot of Jamaicans who were optimistic at the beginning of the conversations about the constitutional reform, but people were saying repeal and replace, because how do you reform something that...
Yeah, repeal means throw away the whole one.
Yes.
Throw it away entirely.
Right.
But it's only the people who want that, The politicians don't want that. The politicians want to patch it up because they want it to stay just like how it stays. So they have to be completely abolished. Completely abolished. I remember when they put Marcus Garvey in prison. Why did they put Marcus Garvey in prison? He started a political party in Jamaica, and one of the first policies was that all of the judges who unjustly judging the people must go to prison, and all politicians who thief money must be executed by a firing squad in the public square. And when them thought that, them put him in prison because them know him was going to execute him. If he got the approval of the people, Marcus Garvey, eventually would have been the first political party that win control of Jamaica. That's why they put him in prison. And they put him in prison and plan now, so we have to have somebody to replace him, because even when him come out of prison, he's going to be a danger. And they identified Norman Manley first. From him come back to Jamaica in 1922, they identify him as the so-called most brilliant Jamaican, and they identified him as the future potential puppet leader of Jamaica. And little after that, Bustamante came from Cuba, and they also identified him as the next potential puppet leader of Jamaica. And what did Bustamante's job in Cuba? Bustamante was in the police force in Cuba, and his job was a secret agent to spy on the UNIA, because the UNIA was very big in Cuba, you know.
Mm-hmm.
The most branches of the UNIA in the world were in Cuba, and I think the second most was in South Africa. And we're talking about 1922 coming up to 1930. And Bustamante was in Cuba in the police force. Talk about him as a police inspector. He was a spy. He was a spy infiltrating the UNIA. And that's why when he came back here, talk about him as police inspector in Cuba.
Jerry,
so they selected these two leaders who happen to be cousins
mm-hmm.
as potential people who would be their head of puppet government, so that Marcus Garvey would never succeed in winning an election in his party. And they did organize the two of them, and the two of them is in one party. Bustamante and Norman Manley, both of them was in the PNP. And then when them in the PNP, about 2 years later, the British contact Bustamante and say, okay, we wanted to split away from the PNP and to denounce them that they are communists. And when you do that, we're going to let you out of prison. They are in prison now.
Mm-hmm.
So make a deal. You know, a lot of deals are made in prison.
Mm-hmm.
They make a deal with Bustamante in prison and say, I wanted to split from the PNP. And when you come out, you denounce them as communists, and we will allow you to win the first election.
Mm-hmm.
And after him win the first two elections at the JLP, they organize with the PNP now, say, okay, if you kick out the communists out of the PNP, we will give you your turn in government, and we will swap your two terms.
Mm-hmm.
Each one will get 2 terms. It's a pattern. And the JLP now is desperately trying to break out of that pattern because they have never won more than 2 times straight, because that pattern was established.
Mm-hmm.
Now, through PJ Patterson, the PNP was able to break out of that pattern and win 4 terms straight. And Holness, as a student of Siaga, is desperately trying to break, not only to break it so that it can feel good as an accomplishment, but also to stay out of prison and to stay out of investigation, just like Trump. There's a lot of people like this now. The same guy, Boris Johnson in England, was the same thing. He was either going to prison or to be prime minister.
Joy, hold the line. Let me take a quick break. I'll be right back. Of the dynasties that we see emerging inside both political parties.
Yes. Now, for dynasties to develop and emerge, the older ones have to hold on as long as possible and then concretize and solidify the younger ones in the junior and middle position and deputy position before them go away. Now, the United States is the same thing. What the guy from the Democrat, what the president named Biden?
Biden, yes.
Don't the most decrepit and stumbling around at him know where he was?
Up to now, yes,
Yes,
right.
And an older, more decrepit guy beat him.
Yes.
An older, more decrepit guy come beat him, you know. Well,
yes.
look strong. And then them pose 2 assassination attempt. Pose at you know. Them set up that. Not goes about no assassination.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the same thing in Jamaica. They hold on as long as possible so that them can concretize the younger generation of them. Sometimes it go through school. Sometimes it's not from through school. Like one time at the JC Mafia, they control PNP, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the next time it's the Calabar Mafia. And you have also other mafias going by school.
Fraternities. Or
fraternity. That's why you see about 5 guys who went to Monroe one after other made a killing out of the funds of the people of Jamaica. Remember, you had Kern Spencer, and before him you had a guy named Basil Waite, and then you had the man from Maritime University, and then the Minister of Education and a couple more. All of those was at Monroe in a close time, you know. And sometimes when them go to UA, the UA Student Guild also become a training ground for this kind of political and money infiltration and control, you know. So that's why I said the educational system is set up to train people how to serve the empire, the bigger empire, and you get your reward as a local government. But we, as you know, are carrying out a different educational system that is alerting our ordinary people about how the trickery and the robbery and the looting is conducted and the pretense, because a lot of it is acting, you know, and smoke and mirrors. Yes. Blowing smoke up which part the sun don't shine.
Let us leave it right there. So, finally, Jerry, there is a conversation I had with the with the family last week because we buck up in our situation information that Jamaica is about to celebrate enslavers. Now it's interesting because they even did it. I heard at the Grand Gala where the enslavers, that whole acting out of piracy, which is really enslavers, slave masters, if you will. So you talk about the con initially. And what happened, at so-called independence. Obviously, the promise of emancipation still not yet fulfilled. But how dangerous is this that we can now outright, in the open, because it's been happening for a while, but not so brazen with government agencies like a Minister of Tourism and so on, a Ministry of Tourism. But how dangerous is it that Jamaica feels comfortable or them feel comfortable enough to celebrate slavery and the enslavers out in the open in the way that they're planning to do with this Pirates Week?
Yes, they celebrated enslavement and the enslavers for hundreds of years. And now, and from before, but officially now, they need to celebrate piracy because piracy is the only name for the system of government in Jamaica. It is not parliamentary democracy. It is piracy. You hijack a vessel. You use one vessel and hijack the other vessel that is going home with loot. The thief from the other thief. The pirates used to wait until one pirate got thief the Red Indian them or thief the Mexican Indian with them gold. And when that one thief and go home to him part of Europe, the next European pirate go stick him up. You know the usual thing?
Yes.
Yeah, so some of the man work with guardsmen and them place there. And sometimes the next guardsman, pirates, people hijack because inside knowledge and all those. But the whole system of Jamaica, the whole system of the whole colonial and empires right around the world, even in the time of the Jesus, Remember, say Rome did invade is the Palestinian, and have the Palestinian rule.
Yes.
And yet the king of Palestine, the king of the Jews, cooperated the Roman invasion, That's how Herod was still king, Because some of the local rulers and some of your own people sell you out. That's why it took a long time for us to get back together with the Maroons.
Yeah.
Because all the while they infiltrate some of our compatriots, turn them against us, and betrayal and treachery take place. So this is a systematic thing. That's why this is a dream of Siaga also, The whole Port Royal revival thing is Siaga long-term dream because I know that is a sure winner for the biggest tourism attraction in Jamaica will be the story of piracy. And then now, him and the local people in his party will get to have plenty of the shares in the hotel and the cruise line and so on. They will be junior partner to the partner, but they have plenty of shares. And not only that, Thiago was born in America. His parents deliberately took the pregnant wife to America before he was born, so that he would be born there. Because these people are nomadic, and they move from place to place, and they have business all over the place. So Thiago born in America, and eventually by 1974, America authorized him to take over the JLP, and he became leader. He pushed out here and take over the headship of JLP. And by 1980, they were able to install him. But this is an American working for the American Empire. Just like how you have the British. And the American Empire and the British Empire is two parts of the same thing.
Of course.
They are the new. Just like how Germany declared themselves the whole Roman Empire at one time. Successor to Rome. So it is America is a successor to England. And America it is who rescued England in the Two World War. And England hand over the hegemony over the world to America. Their child, their offspring. Bastard us.
So this is a metaphor for the ongoing piracy on the island.
Piracy, yes. And the celebration.
Yeah.
The celebration of the methodology of privacy. Is a method of doing things wrong. To pirate other people's things and then to establish. Because I remember, Henry Morgan, the biggest pirate in the world, was then made governor of Jamaica,
Of course.
So the whole government of Jamaica model of a pirate. Successful. If you are successful in piracy, you will become the local government. You will be awarded by that.
Outside of English. So if I talk German, French, any other enslavers language, I get a massive beating for it for my listeners. And I have to keep reminding people out. But I spend the whole man not talk English. So okay, you only have a problem with and BK, but you know me, I'm always talking a different language. BK, take up for me. Because I just made a mistake, right? With the Spanish. So this is basically what it is. But I do talk the Kemet language. the hieroglyph, the Medonetta, and I do talk Swahili and on Bantu languages, and but it is what it is. So please forgive me that I said Muyo a while ago, which would have been something else. Anyway, so Mr. Bigay, so if we've been talking about this a whole lot, Bigay myself, but it's because it is ongoing and it is fluid, and we're proud of what we're seeing and what we're doing here at IRIE FM, with the honoring the icons of the music from them time till this time. And one of the things that you might be seeing now on our social media, which is really brilliant, if you're checking out IRFM social media pages, and you'll be seeing the different, because there are 30 that have been chosen so far, right? The other 5 from the 35 will be chosen by you. So the 30 is we're literally rolling them out on the social media, right, BK? Yes. And so if you are following the IRFM social media pages and all of the platforms they're on, you get a good idea of what is happening. Really brilliant, by the way. I must just say, congratulations and good work to the social media team and Nicholas Evans for really that element of the promotion of the 35. It's brilliant. So if you check IRFM social, look here, man, me just clean here. No, I know. But yeah, take the microphone and stop cleaning things up. We need to be going live all the time, because people need to swear you out behind the scenes. They need to know what you do, while you're getting ready to come on air. So COVID not finished for Big A and myself, And I think maybe for most presenters here, where we just fall into the COVID mood, it's not a bad thing.
No, it's not.
Where we just go through and use alcohol and things same way. Anyway, so I was talking about the rolling out of the 30.
Mm-hmm.
Platinum. No, say it. Look to me. It's platinum. It's all platinum.
Yeah. Yes, I certainly like the look.
Mm-hmm.
What is interesting is the kind of comments and feedback that we're getting.
I said nothing.
Some of them are very interesting.
Like what? Give us an idea.
One of the notable ones was that. So why Vibes Cartel have to be the first one they put out?
He was the first one?
Yes. And that is because
once again it's alphabetical order.
It's alphabetical order. And it's a DJ power. Right. So he would naturally fall there. But it just goes to show that sometimes we look at the picture and not at the words, because there was certainly a caption
which said what?
which said we, even before any pictures came out, that says we are releasing the names alphabetically. But you know what? It is probably a good thing that we started there, because it made the eyes pop. You know, as I said, well, I look a bit. Kind of thing. So who else is on this wall? So you want to follow. Yeah. So as opposed to you putting up the other names where you say, I know he's going to be there, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I think now persons are waiting with bated breath.
Yeah, the engagement is out of this world.
The engagement is
I know some people are called to and say, oh, me not up on the list. I am making that call myself. I just letting you know. As a matter of fact, me a big have a bet who is going to market themselves better so that we get the vote out of the 5.
Right, so you're looking forward to being on that wall.
Yeah, of course, yes. So look here, me have my own marketing strategy, so me not ready to roll it out yet, but I'll roll it out for Heroes Week.
For Heroes Week.
Heritage Month. I'm rolling out my marketing strategy.
You're allowing the other folks to do their marketing.
Yeah, do the thing. Yes. So we're coming in hot.
And you're a late starter.
How that song they go again?
Yeah?
I wish sang that.
What?
I know, there's a song that has that line.
Right.
It's who?
Sugar Man.
Oh, you go. Sing it with me.
No, come on. No.
All right, say it with me here then. What a line or the song?
Some of them take the early lead, but
that's a song, Sugar Man. We can't find it, man. Sure. And lazy coming. No, we could have find it out there, sir. Is Sugar Man not in the 30?
In the 30, no. No. But certainly could be in the final 5.
So I'm going to give up to Sugar Man.
Right, so certainly can be in the final 5.
Yeah. So you know the list like that in your head, Biggie?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, okay. I was given the task of creating the list.
Right.
So
yes, I know.
And it took quite a while to be tabulating all these votes from all these people. So at the end of the day,
you would know.
I would know.
Yeah. Because when they talk about the most recurring names, and you have to go that over and over and over
again.
Yeah. That is rote learning. It's like A, B, C, D, E. After a while, you know, so you go to Z. Yeah, so the social media page really popping, so go check those out.
Right, so far, Vibes Cartel, Prince Buster, and Chris Blackwell have been posted, right, on the social media pages. So, who's coming out today? I don't know.
All right, probably out already. But just to remind you that you're going to be asked to choose the next 5. Yes. So stand by for that.
Stand by for that. And we're going to help you too. Yeah. We're going to publish a list of names from the 204 different names that we had from the council.
Right.
We took 30, which leaves 174 if my math is correct. And we want to give you that 174 names to help you along the way to see if among those that didn't make it to the 30, you believe that any one of the 5 that you think. And
you're not constrained. You're not constrained by that list because you might have a name in your head where you're not on the list,
right?
Like Cabo. You know, you're not constrained. You're totally not constrained by the list.
You know the way you're going. You better get a portrait ready. You know. Right, the portrait we should choose from.
Yeah.
You're definitely.
I'm going to stop for a minute until we're going to do me here.
Yeah.
I'm going to calm it down a little bit.
Yeah, calm it down.
My portrait not ready, sir.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right. So we're on our way. You're not going to halfway tree.
For what? For what again? For what interest do I have in halfway tree again?
But they must sell patty cheap.
Patty? I mean, I must pass my 2 favorite patty place down the road.
But patty are actually expensive. So
I must pay a toll. Put this in the car. Hold on, let me get this. No, let me just get this right.
Right.
I must pay the toll.
Yes.
Put the gas in the car.
Yeah.
Go to Kingston.
Patty cheap at halfway tree.
Right.
So you don't have no plan for go Kingston today at all?
No, certainly not.
Okay. So you want me to party for him?
No. I know he parties on Sunday. I know he parties on Sunday.
Oh, goodness gracious. Anyway, I want to take it easy upon the road. So when you're coming, you notice any activities like people heading, you see any buses or... Because normally you see a lot of activities.
Strange enough, no. Not for the last couple of minutes from my neck of the woods.
Oh, but that not look good. But Andrew, that not look good.
No, I mean, it's tonight. Probably don't start
yet. We normally see the people from,
I don't see it yet.
Okay.
I maybe just bad timing, probably.
Okay. Anyway, so when do you think the election is going to be? Which date?
I don't know and I don't care, actually.
Look here, I'm going to sign off. Because it's one of those people we're talking about this morning. Apathy. Right? Probably don't even register.
I don't care.
Register for vote, sir?
No.
An important entry, That makes 2 of us. But so me and Big Ego start our own party around here.
I think the loudest voice is those of the unregistered and those of the non-voters.
Yes. And by loudest voice,
which is a very strong statement. And I don't know who is listening, but that is the loudest statement.
Yeah. It speaks the loudest. It is true. And we see what happened last year, 63%. I mean, last election, although that was in the middle of COVID, no, sir? The last one in the middle of COVID?
Or just before?
And in the middle of COVID, you remember? Yeah, man.
Okay.
in the middle of COVID. So, it was 63% that didn't vote. And then in the election, the parish council election, it was 20-odd% or 30-odd% that actually voted. So it's not a good look for the island. But it's, like you say, those who don't register, those who don't vote, that's the loudest voice. And that is a really serious, powerful cohort, if people understand that the power that lies right there. So, yeah. Anyways, this is how we're saying good. By the way, just before we go, Big A, just to remind our listeners that the wall will be unveiled. I mean, the physical wall will be unveiled.
I don't put a date on it yet. There was a tentative date, but because of what we are now working out with our partners, I don't want to have make a commitment at this point in time. Okay. But let us say it must happen within the 35th year of our celebration.
All right. There you go. So stand by. And we'll see you next time. This is how we say goodbye for today. Making way for the Big A inside of the Sunday Sunshine. Take care. Thank you so much for listening.
One Uptown TV. Yo, enough there, me I represent.